That's true.
That's it.
But if you're gonna be picky, yeah.
Okay.
Calling to order the
Aggressive with that gavel, isn't he?
Yeah. January 9th, 2019 meeting of the Ellsworth Planning Board. Before we start with the adoption of the minutes and the agenda, I'd like everybody on the planning board to introduce themselves.
Lisa Enman.
John Vallejo.
John Fink, Rick Lyles.
Now you
And
may,
if I could just jump in for the benefit of everyone else. This evening, John DeLeo will be chairing the meeting because he hasn't had any practice in it. And so we decided to torture him this evening.
I was getting to that.
Okay.
Number 2, adoption of the minutes from the October 31st, 2018 meeting. I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda is amendment to subdivision plan titled Atlantic Storage, Plan File 4515 for Atlantic Landscape Construction, Inc. The proposal is to split a parcel of land totaling 9.5 acres at 124 Bangor Road. Tax map lots 50-68 and 41-75 into 2 parcels, one 5 acres and the other 4.5 acres. The amendment would allow Atlantic Landscape Construction, Inc. to transfer a 5.0 acre parcel to Down East Maine Property Management, LLC. The majority of the subject land is in the urban zone with a portion in stream protection. Is there someone here representing Atlantic Storage?
Stephen Salisbury.
Now, before we get into your presentation, Steve, I just have one question for the, I guess for the planner, for Mr. Fink, just a, I guess a procedural question. Under Article 10, revisions to approved plans, it says, if the revision involves only modifications of the approved plans without the creation of additional lots or dwelling units, the procedures for the final plan approval shall be followed. My question is, we're splitting into 2, isn't this creating an additional lot? So,
What section is that?
Article 10, 10.1 procedure. I'm not just a little, I mean, do we go through this as, do we have to go through this as a preliminary meeting, fine, you know, and then a final meeting, or is, do we just approve the amendment? That's what I didn't understand.
So the procedure for final approval, that would mean that if the revision involves only modification of the approved plan without the creation of additional lots or dwelling units, the procedures for final plan approval shall be followed. That means that the approval process is a 2-meeting process.
So we would basically consider this a preliminary. Does that change how we proceed?
So, well, it's complicated. The, for a while, if my memory is correct, Steve, and correct me if I'm wrong, you could come to planning board and do preliminary and final together in the same meeting. So you did not have to come to 2 meetings. Okay. There was I can't remember if it was you, Steve, it was a project with you or someone else. There was a project that came and there was discussion around that, and it was determined by the lawyer that a subdivision had to come to 2 meetings. And we, I believe it could be a sketch or a preliminary. It didn't matter which portion of it was. And that if And that if that sentence here, the procedure for final plan approval shall be followed, that means that the final plan approval is a two-meeting situation. That's my recollection on this.
Can you legitimately waive that in some way? If there's some sort of, I mean, you know, if there's no objection or there's no comment? I'm just asking.
But I would,
I mean, there's certainly nothing controversial about this. I'm just concerned with the procedural aspect of it, that we,
I think that,
Dwight?
As Michelle said, this whole process has been confusing. Typically, if you split a lot, make one split, create two lots, is exempt from subdivision. And I kind of pushed this to come back in a way because the amendment that's being made to these lots changes what's at the registry of deeds. I felt that we should have a correction of that document done.
not because it triggers subdivision from my
Right,
point of view.
because it's changed what's at the registry of deeds. So I think the board could look at that and say, well, doing a split, making two lots is exempt, and John Fink knows this better than anyone else. Splitting a lot, creating two lots is exempt from subdivision. What we're trying to do is put a corrective permanent record at the registry of deeds to show that there was split. So if someone's coming in and doing surveying and something, they're gonna know that there was an amendment made to this subdivision.
And then, but there's an additional thing does it trigger subdivision or not? Can you add the division of building to the division of land? I personally, would encourage a one meeting. This is literally a technicality. If it was any way controversial, then I would be opposed to it, because then there would be, you know, a situation that some things that could happen afterwards. But this is not a controversial. This is entirely a technicality of creating a line in the middle so these properties can be sold to individuals. I also fear that we've put a lot of time and effort to also follow this by agenda item number 4, and that if you would ask a 2 meetings, you're gonna stop the second agenda item following that first one.
I mean, that's certainly not my goal in it. I just, after reading Article 10, I just want to make sure we were doing this correctly, especially when we're now splitting a lot and it's actually going to 2 different owners, and we're making a change to the storage unit lots. I'll turn to Mr. Fink.
If we go strictly by the wording of the ordinance, then we've created another law. It doesn't only involve modifications to the approved plan without the creation of an additional law. I don't see at the moment how we can get around that. And it does, you know, it does need to be filed with the registry, but it would in any case. How does the rest of the board feel?
I mean, I don't have a problem proceeding as, if you want to term it as we do a preliminary to final in one meeting, if that's what I understand from the planner.
I think you could,
What makes this complicated though, John, is that this was never a subdivision of lots. It was a subdivision of dwelling units. That's where the big gray area is. We're not increasing the number of units, we're creating one lot. So we have a 2-lot subdivision
Yeah,
for the same number of units.
well, we did not, right.
So that's the gray area that Michelle and I have been trying to work through.
I would encourage the board to consider doing final and preliminary and final in one meeting.
Yeah.
Because I think that this could be, you could have 3 different lawyers and none of them are gonna tell you the same thing at the table. If this was controversial, that may be a different approach, but this is simply a technicality to get this done. I would encourage the board to consider doing the agenda, doing a preliminary final at the same time. So you would do two motions, basically.
Yeah, first motion to be, the plan is complete. And then the second is that
That's what I would.
complies with the requirements of the ordinance. That's
So
my-
here that you're comfortable proceeding.
Of course,
That's what I
because
do.
I'm not chairing the meeting.
Richard, are you gonna?
I'm good, sure.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Stephen now.
Good, thank you. Very simply, we're not talking about changing any of the apartments or the storage units, we're only talking about dividing the land. Here's what we have on record, as was approved. In yellow is what we want to add to the plan, so to speak. The dividing line between the residential and the storage, and labeling the lots 1 and 2. That's the extent of the changes to the face of the plan that we made.
Any questions from the board?
None for me.
Maybe I didn't notice it on the first set of plans. I noticed that the road going to the townhouses has been named Huckleberry Way.
Yes.
And then the new paperwork, there's now Lehman Way.
Lehman Way serves the storage units.
Was that in the first set of plans for?
Yes, that was approved several months ago on the initial application.
Just consider I'll open a public hearing. Is there any, if there's anybody from the public who would like to address this, amendment to a subdivision plan, could you please come up to the podium and state your name? Apparently nothing, so I'll close the public meeting. And does somebody have an amendment? Does somebody have a motion?
I think it's what you do with them.
With regard to item 3 on the agenda, amendment to a subdivision plan entitled Atlantic Storage for Atlantic Landscape Construction. Proposal to split a parcel of land totaling 9.5 acres at 124 Bangor Road, tax map 50, lot 68 and 4175 into 2 parcels, one 5 acres and the other 4.5 acres. The board finds that this is allowed under the subdivision ordinance. This is only a land subdivision. This does not affect anything else on the property. And the board approves this motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Excuse me,
Aye.
Nope.
may I? I think we need to do 2 motions. We need to do completeness motion,
Oh,
and then
right.
we need to rehold the public hearing for the deliberation, findings of facts, and conclusion, if possible. So that would be your second motion. We can hold that one.
Okay. I move that this, that item 3 is complete.
Second, yes.
Thank you.
For sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can you hold a public hearing too for the second portion, just for,
I'll reopen the public hearing. And close it.
That would be the next step.
good job.
And the record is complete.
Yes.
And we can, are you gonna redo the motion, or are you holding the motion you did?
Huh?
Are you redoing a motion for the,
No, no, why don't we just,
okay, perfect,
they're both made.
okay.
Besides, I'd have to remember what I said.
It's gonna be okay, we'll figure this out.
So we all set on
Yeah.
item 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Going to item 4. Amendment to a major use site development plan and a subdivision plan titled Atlantic Storage, Plan File 4515 for Beaumark Commercial LLC. The proposal is to reduce the number of buildings proposed for use as a self-storage units from 11 to 9 on a portion of the previously approved plan at 124 Bangor Road, tax map lot 50-68 and 4175. The majority of the land is in the urban zone with a portion in stream protection. Is there someone here representing Beaumark Commercial LLC?
Steve Salisbury.
Proceed.
So the original approval had 11 storage buildings, as shown on the graph here. The new proposal is to have 9 buildings, essentially the same amount of square footage of storage space, the same square footage approximately at the impervious area. The turn area for the fire department was moved. But we'll still accommodate a fire truck to maneuver around the buildings and turn around into the property again. The location of the stormwater management facility is the same. Discussing that with the planning staff, there was a slight modification of the exiting detention pond, which is closest to the residential side. The pond was made a little bit deeper to accommodate a little bit more stormwater. There's gonna be this proposal, as opposed to the previous proposal, talks about a gate, electric gate for access in and out of the storage facilities. So it will be gated at all times. There'll be a parking area in front of one of the storage buildings that you will not need to pass through the gates to go to. So if there's ever an office created, it'll be at that most upper right-hand corner storage building, if and when an office is ever deemed to be needed. We modified the lighting plan to go with the new number of buildings. Tweak that after some staff comments to comply with all aspects of the ordinance. Yeah, I think that's the extent of the changes.
Steve, Steve, can you talk about, so what, the plan that you have in front of you is not the same one that we're looking to have signed. Can you explain those changes that you sent us today?
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Yes, that's fine. Note number 4, down on the bottom left corner of the page, the note 4, we added some comments about changing the orientation of the hydrants that have already been installed, that weren't installed to the satisfaction of the fire department. And they're gonna do a pressurization test of some sort or another on that system before it's turned over to the city. So that note has been amended slightly. We found a misspelling in the word ordinance in one of the notes, and we added at the bottom right, where it says Beaumont Commercial, it just now says record owner above that. So when it gets recorded with the deed, that's a request from the Register of Deeds.
you have the Knox box, the labels of the 2 gates, which you have in front of you is,
Right.
Steve sent us some changes this afternoon that were minor.
The labeling was changed to match what was in the TRT
Yep.
report. So what you have in the TRT report has now been put on the plan that's there for you to sign tonight.
And then the turnaround for the fire, the turnaround for the fire.
Part of the
trucks.
measurement was covered up, and that's been adjusted so the full measurement can be read.
Clearly read on the plan now.
Well, Steve, did you say the parking, the half a dozen parking places in the upper right, you can get to those without going through the gate?
That's right, yes.
So I'm a little unclear now where the gate actually is, because that was actually a
Well,
question.
Let me point to it. Without touching the screen, Nate, if he's watching. So there's a gate right there. The entrance is here. So you come in and go left, coming off the street to the parking lots. If you want to go right, you gotta punch in a code, and that gate will open, so you can access all this area. There's another gate right between those two buildings, separating the parking area from the storage facility. That will have a padlock on there for the fire department.
So coming in to the gate, you can't go to that big unit on the upper right?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
Come in here, park, and go into that.
That one. But to get to the rest of the
To get to
building?
the rest of the storage, you will have to go through the gate.
Okay, I see another gate between those,
There's a fencing gate between the building, I don't know.
between unit 1 and 2, I see. There's a 20-foot gate, okay.
There's 25 feet between the building, or 30 feet between that building, and there's a 20-foot gate.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Not of substance.
Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. If there's anybody present who'd like to make a comment on this proposal, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Shazam.
Is there a motion to accept? You notice I'm looking at you, John.
The official motion maker.
Dan, if you ask to do this again, the answer is no, I should.
Well, Mr. Lyles is going to be trained on
That dog could
motions.
be trained.
Okay, you might wish to try?
No, I'm gonna be trained later.
Can we come and watch?
Yes, you could.
With regard to item 4, amendment to a major use site development plan, subdivision plan entitled Atlantic Storage. Proposal is to reduce the number of buildings proposed for use as self-storage units from 11 to 9 on the portion of the previously approved plan at 124 Bangor Road, lots 50, map 50, lot 68, and map 41, lot 75. The majority of the subject land is in the urban zone with a portion of stream protection. The board finds the proposal meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance and of the stormwater management ordinance. And gives approval for the project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. We have a numerous bunch of Mylars to sign. After we sign the Mylars,
I move that as soon as the Mylars are signed, the meeting adjourns.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
You survived.